Hello, fellas and ladies. I'm super duper excited to talk about this movie because every new thought I have about this movie reveals something new for me and whose flaws become more and more obsolete, so to speak, in my mind. I'm referring, of course, to Disclosure Day, the newest film from Steven Spielberg, aka Daddy Spielberg, that I jokingly called him for a while to the point where it became what I unironically call him. Daddy Spielberg is probably the biggest director in cinematic history. He's made a whole bunch of movies that are classics or bound to be classics. Here's a bunch on the screen. Look at those movies. Aren't they fantastic? Isn't he great? Disclosure Day's premise has been mostly kept hidden, but I can safely say that this film follows a weather lady and a whistleblower as they avoid mean government people to show the world irrefutable evidence that there is in fact alien life that has made contact with Earth. Disclosure Day doesn't waste time whatsoever. We're getting the ball rolling immediately. The second the logos are done, we are thrust in the middle of this conflict. I thought there was like a non-linear narrative going on, but no, it's just movie starts now. And while I wouldn't call the movie super fast-paced, I would say the movie never really takes its foot off the gas. It reveals itself as the movie goes on and begins to ask its questions and reveal its concepts very naturally for a film that begins so sporadically. Now, for the record, right off the bat, I don't think this movie is spotless. I do think some of its threads aren't fully realized, nor do I think its character writing is amazing. Emily Blunt's character is fleshed out kind of, like her backstory is there. Like the backstories are there, but like it doesn't contribute that much to their over like arcing, narrative purpose for the characters at least. And then Josh O'Connor, like I don't know, it's just like there's implied character stuff and like a prison backstory. But the movie never really made him feel like more than a plot vehicle. That's not Josh O'Connor's fault. He does an admirable job. He's Josh O'Connor, although he clearly isn't able to elevate what's missing. The script is the weakest part of the film. It does have some notable dialogue quirks and exposition dumps that aren't so easily hidden. There's a line early on where, like, Wyatt Russell says to Emily Blunt's character, "Hey, you think this has something to do with that mysterious childhood trauma you're always talking about?" Subtle. The story is excellent, but David Cope's translation of Daddy Spielberg's story can leave some things a little empty, even if Daddy Spielberg does a lot of heavy lifting. I definitely noticed some of the flow of the script just kind of not fully landing the way that I think it was supposed to when, the story was written. But Daddy Spielberg is still on his A game. It's him at his most Spielbergian in a while, which, while other filmmakers can pull that off in a way that either fully rips off his, trailblazing tendencies or simply put a spin on it, with Daddy Spielberg, it feels so natural. He's amazing at sparking a sense of wonder at even the most mundane moments in this film, but there are so many set pieces that he pulls off so well with amazing tracking shots and camera movements. He even fucks around with the editing a lot in a very exciting manner. One transition in particular that made me legit giddy. And obviously this isn't surprising. This is Daddy Spielberg after all. Put that graphic I put up earlier back on the screen. Look at what he does. Look at what he's done. He's him. There's a train sequence in particular that's notably ridiculous, but so something I've never seen before at the same time. And with a few notable exceptions that gave me some Russo brothers vibes, the camera work and cinematography from Janusz Kaminski is top-notch. Even the most familiar beats he's able to pull off so well. There's such as like a, run-of-the-mill, we gotta go turn off the power sequence. It feels generic because it is, but it feels too fun and full of legit movie magic. I'm not just saying that to give Daddy Spielberg a bone for something we know he's great at. I'm more saying he's the best at what he does because he's the only one who can pull it off in this way. The John Williams score, which shows some stuff from him that's refreshing to hear, even if it's super John Williams, certainly helps the overall wondrous tone. This is a very heady movie that has a lot that, frankly, I can't talk about without heading into spoiler territory, but what I think made up for the film's flaws is the foundation of it all seems to come from a very sincere and, dare I say, optimistically existential place. Maybe optimism is the wrong word. The film's apex can clearly be seen as a best-case scenario reaction that seemed to know it can only exist in movies, but a level of human love that can only come from an optimist. That's the bait of this film, even in the messier moments. Despite the fact that a lot happens in this movie, and a lot of it is intentionally unresolved, there's something so endearing about this film throughout, and I think it's the effective emotional through line that guides the film into something so human and perhaps naively profound. And I think it's that Spielbergian touch that he invented that feels so alive that this last couple films, and even though I love them more than this, didn't quite have. despite the effective emotions of those films. And I've gone long enough without talking about the performances. I mentioned Josh O'Connor already, and that he's really good, but not quite able to elevate the fact that he's not given a lot. Colman Domingo is Colman Domingo. He's the calm in the storm, so to speak, and he's such an effortlessly excellent screen presence. Once again, he is a generational talent. Colin Firth I really liked as the big mean government guy. He's not doing the, waving his fist thing, making dance illegal or that bullshit. He's a perfect foil to the protagonist, someone who just is too pessimistic about humanity that he just cannot get this info out, whereas his foes are just, they're not sure, but they think it needs to be revealed anyway. And then there's Emily Blunt, who really owns this film and gives likely the best performance of her career. I can't say much about her character because a lot of what she does is to give away a lot of her arc and stake in the film. But she's asked a lot. She's very goofy and goes back and forth between certain dialects with such confident ease, aware of the humor of what she's pulling off, and in the more emotional moments, she's outstanding. I won't go deep into Oscars here, but I wouldn't be too surprised to hear get Oscar attention for this. It's a real force of a performance. It's not super obvious, and that makes it work more. It feels a little too natural. Now, I can certainly see audiences being a little put off by the everything this film offers, because there's a lot. It's a chase film mixed with a sci-fi concept that's also a political conspiracy thriller that's really all a roadmap for existential and societal and even humanistic examination. It's not the spectacle that audiences may be thinking it is. It's more the post than Close Encounters of the Third Kind. One such criticism I've heard is that the film doesn't offer answers, which isn't totally untrue. But I do think, it's not that the film isn't saying, the answer, so to speak. I do think the intention is more challenging the movie perception of its questions. One such example is the movie really wonders what this explosive revelation would mean from a religious standpoint, and it doesn't directly give us a clean explanation. There's a hopeful one, but nothing directly concrete. And that can be frustrating, but there is something about this film's finale that got me emotional in a way that I couldn't quite explain why, that really drove the film home for me, almost cleaning up the mess in the process. Disclosure Day is a little like Daddy Spielberg to The Irishman. What do I mean by that? They aren't similar films. The Irishman is a far, far better film. But like The Irishman, we see a legendary filmmaker taking the concept that they're known for, in Scorsese's case, the American Mafia, and in Daddy Spielberg's case, alien life, and taking a much deeper approach, less concerned with the grand awe of its cinematic spectacle. While it's not the internal examination that The Fabelmans was, I do think Spielberg is owning his limitations. Who is he to say that what humankind would do in the wake of these revelations? He is a magic maker, after all, and he's fascinated enough with the existence of aliens that it's clearly been something that's percolated in his brain going into the later stage of his life. And Disclosure Day, in maybe not giving us something exact, does see a filmmaker posing the existential questions as more of a thought exercise than an outright message, which is endearing to see Daddy Spielberg pull off, even in this point of his career and life. So, it's not perfect. It's not top-tier Daddy Spielberg by any stretch, whereas there's a really solid case for West Side Story and The Fabelmans that it's up there. And I can't help but think that some more payoff would have undone anything and improved the film from a thematic standpoint. But Disclosure Day is an exciting and introspective film that shows a lot about the fact that there's still much going on for this all-timer director. Disclosure Day certainly has its handful of issues, such as a messy script and some threads that can be unsatisfying. But Steven Spielberg, in full Spielbergian fashion, is much more interested in the human dynamics that these grand questions make us reflect on, and some magic that he knows only a film can produce, alongside some exciting set pieces and a top-notch Emily Blunt performance. It's a director still growing and questioning his lifelong white whale, and it shows here with some true existential pondering, and to be in the form of a summer blockbuster doesn't get much more Spielberg than that. And I'm going to give Disclosure Day 8.5 Daddy Spielbergs out of 10. I can definitely see that this movie can get a lot richer on a second watch, which I'm really excited to do in IMAX. But this is how I feel now. And that's that. That's your Spielberg review. You're welcome. Last comment, share. Bye.